President Trump visiting the CDC on Friday as he urged people to stay calm as the coronavirus continues to spread. My next guest accompanied the president to the briefing in Atlanta. Georgia Congressman Doug Collins is with me. He is also the ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee. Congressman, it's good to see you. Thanks very much for joining us. What did you learn on your visit with the president to the CDC, sir?
Well, what we learned was the administration is still on top of this. They're still moving forward. And I think there's some interesting things learned. Number one, I just heard the governor of New York talk about everybody being tested. Maria, what the CDC made very clear the other day is everyone who needs a test has a test to have. It's the idea that you need to test everybody is not really an applicable situation when you're trying to make sure that you're isolating the known cases so that you can make proper treatment. And that was what was said the other day at the CDC, that everyone who needs a test, any doctor who needs a test can get that test done. And that is good for us to isolate the cases to make sure that we're doing a proper response. We also know that more test kits are coming out. Secretary Azar stated there'll be 1 million and more in the next weeks to come out. So those are going to be there for everybody that goes forward. And the other thing that I think the president made it clear, and also Dr. Redfin and the others at the CDC is that they have been on this from day one. This was even something that you would never hear in most of the media, was that there seemed to be this delayed response. Even the governor talked about this. But the CDC, from the minute they found out, had began the process of working toward, just as they do any naturally occurring virus like this, to begin the process of working toward it. So I think the reassurance that the president was at CDC doing and making sure the American people knew that we were on top of this was the biggest thing coming out of that the other day.
Well, I mean, that's true, but at the same time, I know that the CDC sent out 50 test kits to 50 states and then said, wait, don't use the tests, they're defective tests. So there was a mistake there somehow. Why send out 50 states to the test kits if they actually weren't usable? And so we don't really have a clear number in terms of how many people are sick because we couldn't do the testing, right?
Well, no, I think there was a mistake sent out that was corrected very quickly. I think having a clear number of how many people have the virus is an ongoing asset. And that's one of the things that the CDC has said and the administration said. There are some people who actually may have this virus and get sick, but they don't actually go to the doctor. There's a lot of things in process here. That's why we're making sure that, and I think the money that we passed this past week that the president signed is important because it allows the states, it allows the beginning to talk about people who need to be quarantined, need to have the medical treatment, to have everything that they need. And we need to make sure that people do the basic stuff. The Surgeon General's talked about this. A lot have is wash your hands, stay out of crowds if you're sick. If you know that it's going to be a problem, make sure that you take the proper precautions just as you do with every other thing. And I think there's been a heightened awareness of that, and I think you're going to see these cases contained. And as they do come up as we go forward, we're going to be able to have a good response to it because the resources are already available for that.
We're going to speak with Dr. Carson in a moment. He's on the task force, of course, the White House task force, and I want to ask him about hospitals and why they're preparing for millions of people to go to the hospital. Millions. I mean, that's a question for Dr. Carson coming up. But let me ask you, Congressman, you've got a very important deadline this upcoming week on March 15th. The FISA surveillance tools, certain FISA surveillance tools will expire. Do you have the votes, do you believe, to actually expand these surveillance tools? Where does this FISA reauthorization go next week?
Well, that's a great question. You and I have been talking about this issue for a long time. The FISA issue is something that we need to take time now to actually not only look at these extenders. And remember, there's two parts to FISA. There's the actual FISA part that is in law. That's the court that was set up in in the 70s that is in permanent law. It doesn't come up for renewal. And then you have extra parts that came up through the Patriot Act and others like the lone wolf provision, roving wiretaps, those things that do come up in the sunset, so we have to approve those. And my position, I think the House's position, and actually the president has mentioned this as well, is now is our time to actually look at what needs to happen with the court itself so that we don't get another Carter Page. We don't get another president like President Trump as a candidate and as president was attacked by rogue cabal at the DOJ abusing the FISA process. We've been working on this for over a year and a half, and I think the House right now is in no position to pass anything that doesn't have some actual Title I change, which is the actual court itself, so that we can protect American citizens in sensitive areas. That's being worked on. I've been working on that through the weekend. We're continuing to work on that. I really wish that the Senate over the past year, had they'd been in the majority, had more hearings and stuff on this, because from the minority position, we've been working hard, and now we need to help this president and to help any future president or any political opponent not have the FISA court abusing their rights.
So it sounds like you don't have the votes to clear a clean FISA next week.
No, I don't think we do, and I think that's a good thing. I think that's good for the president. I think it's good for the country because, Maria, how many times have you and I talked about the fact that people have lost trust in the Department of Justice? They lost trust in the FISA court. And remember, the FISA court was put into place late in the 70s because of abuses in the intelligence system and abuses among law enforcement.
Right.
Does that not sound familiar today?
Well,
if it was worth reevaluating then, we need to reevaluate now.
Well, you're right, and we keep talking about it, and I've been talking about it with Lindsey Graham as well. Now, Senator Graham has started interviews, I guess, but is it too late, too little too late? I mean, are we going to actually get accountability? My audience wants accountability, and so far we haven't seen many interviews, subpoenas from Lindsey Graham.
Well, I'd like to see more, and I think that's the thing we've been pushing for the last year. In the House, we've been at the tip of the spear. We fought sham impeachment. We fought Mueller. I mean, we have done this all day. And so I'm hopeful that with the majority in the Senate, they're going to continue that. I'm glad to see that they finally got started. I'd love to see more of that. It was amazing this past week that when Senator Johnson was trying to actually do something, that Mitt Romney all of a sudden decided he was going to possibly object to subpoenas. We've got to get over this. This happened in abuse of our system, and it is something that goes back to the very integral part of what the DOJ does, especially when it comes to political folks. And when they attack President Trump, when they attack then candidate Trump and tried to cover it up and use FISA, there's nobody in this country that could be immune from that kind of abuse.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Senator Romney. I'm going to talk about that with Kevin McCarthy coming up, GOP minority leader. Congressman, it's always a pleasure to see you, sir. Thanks so much.
Good to see you, Mayor. Take care.
Doug Collins joining us there.